one sec, I just need to check something. That's not important. I shouldn't have done that. But how many of you sometimes do that when you're talking to somebody? You just pick up your screen. You think that's something important, there's a buzz, and you think that you kind of break that connection with that person. I know I'm quite guilty of doing it. I've done it to you all just now. There was a time, maybe 5-6 years ago, I was studying at university, and it was about 10 p.m. at night, and I had this weird realization that I was just spending my entire life in front of screens all day long. I would wake up at 9 a.m., spend my entire lectures just looking at screens. In between breaks, I'll be messaging all my friends through social media, trying to arrange meetups. And then I would go after lectures and I'll be doing my coursework through screens and more meetups and events, and you kind of go into this cycle. And then I was thinking to myself, did I even know what the weather was like outside? I was in this kind of four-sided box where I was just looking at screens. I didn't even know what was going on around me. And it kind of dawned on me at that point that I was thinking, there's a lot of technology that's getting more and more incorporated into our lives, and I'm really not seeing what's going on around me. And I kind of had a bit of a quarter-life crisis. You may have heard of that. It's quite new, it's quite fashionable nowadays. So the quarter-life crisis, I just had a bit of a panic, and I thought to myself, I really need to change this sort of lifestyle. Because what was happening to me, the more and more I realized that I was using screens more and more, each day there was more and more strain on my eyes, and my thought process was distracted. There was an overwhelming amount of information coming from all angles. This is just kind of a personal experience I'm explaining to you, and you may resonate with me on this. And it just felt that I didn't have any focus anymore. I had these goals before, I wanted to go into the energy industry, and I started kind of getting distracted from all these different types of management of data and tech that was coming through in my degree and in my social, my work, my part-time, even in my part-time work life where I was an administrator. I was just constantly overwhelmed by screens. So I wanted to make a change. And I didn't know how, so I did a little bit of research. I'm not an expert, but I had a look around online, and I came across those 4 brain chemicals that are very intrinsic for our happiness. And at the time, when I was feeling kind of overwhelmed and restless from all of this tech that was going through me, I started to kind of see how is technology intrinsic to happiness. So I started to see, how does technology influence each of these 4 brain chemicals that neurologists discuss for your happiness. And I actually came up with a basic concept after doing this. So we'll go through each chemical and see how technology has influenced it. So you have endorphins. You may all know about endorphins. It masks pain, discomfort. It also stops you from walking on a broken leg. Now, it's told that you can exercise and stretch, and it releases endorphins and you feel happy. So when I think about all the times where I spend 12 hours a day or like 8 hours a day just staring at a screen, I'm cramped and crushed, and I'm not releasing any endorphins. I'm not exercising, I'm not mobile, I'm not moving, I'm not stretching. So I'm not actually releasing any endorphins. Another chemical is dopamine. And that is a chemical that's triggered when you receive a reward. It gives you that motivation in life. And when I think of dopamine, I think of the instant gratification and recognition that you can get so quickly through social media and likes on Facebook and Instagram. It's basically like getting quick recognition as a reward. You're doing really well, you post a photo, people like it, you feel good about yourself. Heck, you can even buy 100 followers and you feel like a boss. There's quick rewards on tap. It's dopamine on tap. So then what I started thinking was, well, if you can get all these rewards so quickly, and it's so easy to do it, and you can just do it through a screen, then is that nullifying the significance of what a reward is? I thought, when I was told when I was brought up by my parents that hard work and you achieve great things and that's the reward. But when you don't have to do any hard work and you can get it quite instant on tap, does that nullify that significance? So I started looking at oxytocin, the 3rd chemical. Now that is released kind of when you trust someone or you build a relationship with somebody, someone who's like-minded like yourself. You're all here, you're all listening to TEDx talks, you've got something in common, you're having face-to-face time, you're building relationships and trust with each other. Now, how can you build trust and relationships when you're constantly texting, emailing, and sometimes you lose FaceTime and it's buffering, where you cannot read emotions of someone's face? You're literally having a screen block your human connection. That's not the best way I think of building relationships. And I start to feel that maybe that's why I'm starting to feel a bit isolated, because I'm texting my friends instead of actually meeting up with them. And then the fourth and final chemical, serotonin. This was quite interesting, where I found out that sunlight can release serotonin, which can increase your mood and energy levels. Now, in a world where everything's so tech-focused, you're not getting that kind of UV light, that natural light. You're kind of stuck inside working with screens, and you're not actually getting the light, so you're not actually getting any serotonin. So the underlying theme here is a lot of these brain chemicals are actually, for happiness, are getting depleted by the amount of exposure and excessive screen time I was having when I was working throughout my degree. So I'm not saying technology is intrinsically bad. It's a very good thing. There was a lot of pluses that come out of it. It solves problems. It overcomes challenges. But I don't believe devices can be relied for every single aspect of your entire life, contrary to the general worldview where there's an app for everything nowadays. I'm just saying that maybe common thinking isn't accurate thinking. Maybe we're kind of over-excessively using technology to solve all our problems, but actually maybe we should rewind a bit and try something new and think outside the box. Instead of typing into Google for your answer, why don't you maybe figure out a different way of getting an answer? And that, for me, was a question. So I started to ask more questions to myself. Why do I feel stressed? Where are these pressures coming from, these expectations? What is actually it all coming from? And there's a lot of anecdotes that we can go on here. But there was one thing that kind of struck me from my nan. She said to me, do you remember when you used to send a letter and wait for a response? Now, you send a text message and you instantly want to reply back. Well, why do you want to instantly reply back? That's the pressure, that's the stress. And the reason why is because messaging is seen as expected to be instant and so fast nowadays that you're creating your own stress and you're in this cycle. I wanted to break the cycle. So, there goes a saying like this. I took a walk in the woods and I came out taller than the trees. This saying is really resonating in my life right now. I'm trying to be finding a balance between the amount of tech I use in my work and this new concept that I kind of started to come across, which I call it outdoor time. So basically, every single time, even on those gloomy days where I just felt so not at peace and I was completely restless and I didn't know what was going on and I felt awful. The next day, if I stayed indoors and I scrolled through social media or watched movies or worked on a laptop or did this, my mood would never change. But that moment I stepped outdoors, even for 10 minutes, I felt more alive in that 10 minutes than I did for the entire day when I was staying inside looking at screens. So I was thinking to myself, wow, and that changed my entire day. I'm telling you, I felt more creative in that 10 minutes. It was another realization. I was thinking, there's a potential solution here to this over-excessive screen time and this kind of restlessness and overwhelming feeling that I'm having. And it was going outdoors. So I looked into it a bit more, and I found out that a lot of scientists will say that going outdoors can boost creativity. And I see it now because you kind of have so many distractions with screens. When you go outside and you put the screens away, there isn't that wealth of information. You can kind of channel your thoughts a little bit better and you can work out what your true priorities are. And that was a really, really interesting time when I figured that out. Then I came across this question, which is like kind of a midlife crisis question. Goes along with the quarter life crisis question. But I came across it online, so that means tech is not intrinsically bad, is it? It comes across with these questions that you can kind of answer. I would never have seen it if I didn't surf the net, so well done. I think that's brilliant. But yeah, I said this question to myself, but then I thought to myself, how can I turn this question into something that's going to help me find this balance that I've been striving for? It seemed that I was living a life of imbalance where I was over-excessively using tech, and I needed to find a solution because I think my mental health was starting to slip away and I could feel it happening. A lot of the things that you feel with anxiety and stuff started to creep into my life, and then when I started going outdoors, I noticed that those things started to disappear out of my life, so it was quite interesting. So I wrote a list of loads of outdoor challenges that I could do, and that was to encourage me to go outdoors for the next 5 years. And then I came across this in one of those change your outlook on life books. It's called Finding Your Ikigai, or your inner purpose. And there's these 4 circles that link together, and they are your passions, your profession, your vocation, and your mission. And you kind of fill it out authentically. It's very good to do it authentically, and I filled it out with my inner heart, and I realized that, yes, my profession was geoscience. At the time, I studied to work with rocks. Funny and boring, but at the same time, I really enjoyed it. And I also did a lot of sports, indoor and outdoor, which was kind of a passion. But I didn't know what my mission was, because I think I was being distracted by screens, and I didn't know what I actually wanted to do in life. So I asked this question to myself. I said, I just want to find a balance. And that became my mission. So there you go, there's my fill out. And then I went forward with this, I want to find a balance with tech, and I started to push this sort of outdoor mantra further and further to see how much outdoor time do I really need to put in to balance my screen time. Because even though I was doing walks outside, it felt like a compensation for the amount of screen time I was having, but it didn't feel like I was actually solving a problem. So I went quite far, and I took it to the extreme, because I thought I had an extreme problem. So those outdoor challenges, they started off as just small challenges, like go out open water swimming. And then eventually I went and swam the English Channel with my teammates. And then I was going hiking, and I was like, I just want to keep going. So I went for bigger and better mountains, and eventually hit Kilimanjaro. And then I started rowing, and then started to even push that further, and decided to spend 40 days at sea rowing across the Atlantic Ocean in a team of 4. Now, you don't have to do any of that to work out a balance, but I went a little bit too far, because I thought it was an experiment that I needed to do, and I quite like this experiment, and I'm learning a lot from it. There's a lot of values and things that you can get out of these adventures that you do when you're completely immersed in nature and you're away from tech. Now, when I did the Atlantic row, I learned a lot about different means of being able to deal with the tech when I came back. I recognized some kind of old learnings that perhaps we already always had, but it kind of it kind of falls by the lay-by when you're immersed in the tech. There were simple things like living in the moment and appreciating where you are. How on earth can you do that if you're just staring at a screen all the time? Now, when I was doing the Atlantic row, I was just constantly looking out, because there was no screens or anything. I was just rowing, and all I could do was just have a look and see what's out there, and it actually made me feel good. I kind of saw some sunrises and sunsets every single day. I was thinking, that's really good. I never feel like this in front of a screen. And then there was other things like building a deep, meaningful trust relationship. I was talking to my teammates on that boat consistently all the time, and we got to know each other really well. Now, goes back to my point, how can you build a deep, meaningful, trusting relationship if you're constantly texting each other and there's a screen blocking that human interaction where you cannot read emotions? And then there's out-of-the-box thinking. I found it very difficult to think outside the box when I could go on a PC and ask questions and it would answer it for me. I didn't have to even think anymore. A machine was doing everything for me. As soon as I went outside and I spent 40 days at sea, a lot changed, and I've had a different perception of different ideas that I don't have to rely on tech to answer for me. Then there came this concept of flow. Now, this only came about a month ago, I found out about this, and I looked at it and I was thinking, that's exactly how I was feeling, and that's exactly why I like doing these challenges and going outdoors, because I don't get this in normal life. So it's the optimal state in consciousness, those peak moments of total absorption where the self vanishes, time distorts, and all aspects of performance go through the roof. When I was in those moments of outdoor activity, my mind was free to flourish. It was creative, it was creating ideas, I had so many goals, so many emotions, so many motivations. Now, when I brought screens back into my life when I came back from sea, I kind of started to realize that I was getting distracted more, my focus was dropping, and it was quite interesting to see kind of a lot of the feelings of happiness that I had when I was out there completely disappear when I came back and started doing my job again. And I was thinking to myself, I've just gone back into the cycle. So what I've been doing is I've been extending my outdoor time per day to counteract that screen time, and I found a dramatic difference in my life where I kind of feel a lot more happier. So I started telling my friends and my family. They asked me, how's the Atlantic Road, what was it like? And I say it was amazing because of this reason, flow. You should try it one day, or you should try go outdoors more. So I have family and friends with mental health issues, people who spend hours and hours in front of screens all the time. There's people who I know who are kind of ill, just feeling ill. I tell them, if you go outside, you'll feel a lot better. Some of them don't. They don't take my word for it, and they just stay in a cycle. But those who do, they come up to me and they say, I do feel a lot better just literally from going and walking in the park. It's not rocket science. There's definitely a world out there where there is a balance. But the concern for me was, we know that technology is growing exponentially. This is kind of just the beginning. There's going to be more and more tech in our lives. There's going to be a growing more and more imbalance in our lives. We need to be able to act on it. This concept of outdoor time is just kind of an idea that perhaps maybe we could use to balance our lives with tech as it gets stronger and stronger. So maybe one of you would like to go for a walk in the woods. I would just say don't bring a screen. Thanks.